Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story that's all about standing up for yourself, even when the odds are stacked against you. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. Homeless man at the doctor. Maybe I'm the entitled person here, but I think I deserve to be treated with some decency, treated like a human with some basic kindness, dignity, and respect. I am homeless, and I have a story. About a week ago, I burned my hand somewhat badly. It was my own dumb mistake. I have a small camp stove I use for cooking, and I just finished with it. My dumb butt took my food off, turned it off, and grabbed it to put it away. I literally grabbed the metal part the pan rests on, forgetting metal plus fire equals hot. I did everything I could to take care of it. I washed my hands a lot. I kept cleaning it off with isopropyl alcohol and polysporin to help it heal. But my best efforts weren't enough. I developed an infection, and I knew I needed treatment. Instead of going to the emergency room, I found a walk-in clinic. I waited my turn to see the doctor, and when I finally got in to explain what I needed, he basically refused to help me. He said he wouldn't be prescribing anything, and I'd just have to deal with the pain, accusing me of intentionally burning myself for drugs. I tried to say I just needed antibiotics because my hand was infected. Well, I got nothing, and I knew the infection was bad. I was unable to close my hand. It was getting very swollen. Just an FYI, I don't drink, I don't use drugs, I'm on the straight and narrow path. So I left, and it was off to the emergency room because I needed treatment. I went and explained to the ER nurse what happened, that I think I need antibiotics, and I was put in the waiting room for 6 hours. Finally, I was taken back into a smaller waiting room where I waited for another 3 hours. Finally, a doctor came, but what bothered me was he had 2 very large security guards behind him. The doctor didn't ask me what's wrong. He immediately said, "Unfortunately, we can't prescribe you any medication," and basically tried to usher me out of the door. Yeah, I know I look rough, but I'm not a tweaker, and I kind of got really mad and raised my voice. I said very sternly, "I don't want your effing drugs. I want effing treatment." I slammed my hand very hard down on the metal table thing they have in the rooms and said, "I have an infection. I burned myself on my camp stove. I just need you to take a look. Marie, give me some antibiotics because I don't want to have to cosplay as Captain effing Hook for the rest of my life." Me slamming my hand on the table alerted the security. They said if I have another outburst like that, they're going to hold me and get the police involved. Luckily, the doctor finally got it through his head I wasn't a junkie and took a look at my hand. He ended up giving me a needle in my hand because it was very infected, as well as a blister pack of antibiotics, enough for 7 days. He said if it's not better in a week, to come back. But seriously, am I being entitled? Do I not have the right to be treated like a human? Okay, and my hand is feeling a lot better. The swelling's gone down. Advocating for yourself is an entitlement. For you, it was likely the difference between healing and amputation. I hope your life improves from now on. And our second story. A guy followed my buddy around the store to tell him to give up the store's mobility scooter for his mother. So back in the early 2010s, my best friend, we'll call him Jim, and his family were moving across the state for his dad's work. Now, Jim has a disability that makes him wheelchair-bound. At first glance, he looks like he should be healthy, but in reality, it's quite the opposite. This is important for later. They had sent their stuff ahead in a truck, but still had a bunch in their van, and Jim's wheelchair had stuff stacked on top of it. The seat was folded and the chair was fine. While they were traveling, they decided to stop at a grocery store to grab some supplies for the new place, as they were moving someplace rural and there were no affordable grocery stores at their destination. At the time, Jim could walk, albeit very slowly and with help, but at the risk of falling and getting seriously hurt, as he couldn't catch himself and was over 6 feet tall. So when they got to the store, Jim was helped out of the van so he could go inside and cool off as they were driving through the desert in late August, early September. His folks helped him inside and to one of the available mobility scooters, seeing as his chair was buried. So off went Jim in this scooter that had the approximate speed of an inebriated snail. He was starting to cruise around the store when he was spotted by a middle-aged gentleman, the entitled person of this tale, who was walking with his elderly mother. She was obviously having some trouble walking, but it just so happened that Jim was in possession of the last functioning scooter, so she wasn't able to use it. Well, seeing Jim in the last functioning scooter and assuming he was just some teenage kid goofing off, he told Jim to get off and let his mother use the scooter. Now, Jim was used to this kind of interaction, so he calmly explained that no, he wasn't just goofing off in a scooter, he actually needed it to get around. Well, EP then ranted about how Jim was younger and EP's mom was in awful pain, so Jim should be respectful of his elders. Jim naturally disagreed. He again explained his disability and drove away. Though not very common, this sort of interaction was not his first, but everyone before had been very understanding of the situation. Not so with EP. As Jim perused the wares of the grocery store, EP followed him around, almost shouting at him about how disrespectful he was. And he didn't think anything was wrong with Jim while leaving his mother at the front door. Fun fact about Jim, I have very rarely ever seen him get genuinely angry. I've seen him get upset at a video game or about the state of the U.S. healthcare system. That's another whole can of worms. But he has a very unique ability to let stupid people and their antics roll off his back like a duck with water. So Jim did what he does best and blocked him out. He had practice being the oldest child. Well, EP kept up his antics, and Jim just pretended he didn't exist. Eventually, Jim found his parents as they were checking out. They left him to his own devices as he liked to be as independent as possible, and EP ran back to his mom after seeing Jim's dad, who's not a small person. Jim and his family, just wanting to be done with their travels, bought their supplies and got out of Dodge. Every time Jim thinks of that story, he says, "You know what the worst part was? He followed me and harassed me, rather than take care of his mom, who looked like she was in awful pain. If I could, I probably would have slugged him just for that." Jim's right. Instead of helping his mom or getting home faster, the a-hole has to follow a guy around the store yelling at him? What a loser. And our next story. Entitled Restaurant Patron. Years ago, I worked as a maitre d' hostess at an upscale restaurant in New York City. During Restaurant Week, where restaurants provide discounted prefix menus, I had an encounter with a classic entitled Karen. She called the restaurant at 6 p.m. on a Friday night during RW asking for a 7 p.m. reservation. If you've ever worked during RW or have gone out to dine for this deal, you know to make the reservation weeks in advance. I politely tell her we're fully booked until 9:15, but she can come in and try her luck in the first-come, first-served lounge area or see if a reservation opens up earlier. She shows up with her party. I tell her the same thing again. Nothing open earlier yet. The restaurant's packed with people on the wait list. The lounge is full. The bar is full. Karen decides to walk through the restaurant and count every open table. She comes back to the host stand and begins screaming at me, "That table is open, that table is open, and that table is open. You can seat me now." Me: "I'm sorry, but those tables are reserved for people who have reservations coming within the next 10 minutes. "This is bullcrap. You don't know how to do your job. You're effing terrible. You shouldn't work here since you're awful at it. And effing smile when I talk to you." At this point, she's causing a scene and blocking people from checking in. My a-hole of a manager decides to give her one of the tables, the worst table on the second floor, crammed into a corner at least. "See, that wasn't hard. You should be fired." I wanted to kill my boss because guess what ended up happening? I had to make people with reservations wait 30-plus minutes for their tables as I tried to reshuffle them around after losing a table. My boss said it's easier just to give her what she wants instead of making a scene in front of guests. I'm now an event director, and I refuse to reward bad behavior. Your boss is one of the reasons people act the way they do now, because people used to give in to them so much. Glad the tide's turning, just not soon enough. And our last story. Battle against the senator to protect our property. We recently bought a beautiful piece of land, excited to expand our home to accommodate our large family, including an in-law suite for my mom and dad. We hired architects, surveyors, and landscapers and made sure our close neighbors were aware of our plans. After weeks of waiting, we finally completed our survey on July 7th, finalized the plans with our architect, and approached the zoning board to ensure everything was in order. We even had a friendly meeting with our neighbor, Senator Walter, and his wife to discuss updating the retaining wall, adding proper drainage, and replacing overgrown trees causing erosion. On August 12th, our sunny Saturday was disrupted by a court summons hand-delivered by the authorities, ordered by Senator Walter and his wife. They claimed ownership of about 2,000 square feet of our property through adverse possession, citing a row of bushes planted 30 years ago as the supposed property line. These bushes were 13 feet into our property, and if their claim succeeded, our lot would become non-conforming, jeopardizing our plans for the in-law addition. Senator Walter falsely claimed he had paid taxes on the disputed land, but the town tax collector confirmed this was a lie. Despite this, he managed to obtain a restraining order preventing us from using the land or proceeding with any construction. Shocked and blindsided, we had to fight this in court to keep the property we legally owned. Despite our due diligence in verifying the property lines and having no knowledge of any adverse possession claim, we were thrown into a legal battle. The senator's claim came out of nowhere, and neither the realtor who sold us the property nor our neighbors mentioned any dispute about the trees. As far as we and the town were concerned, the bushes were well within our property, and our planned variances did not affect the senator's land. We tried to resolve the issue amicably, asking them to reconsider their objection to our variance, but they refused any talks of mediation. We were determined to protect our property and future in this town. Our 5-year-old son had just started kindergarten, and our daughter was in pre-K in the local school district. Uprooting our children was not an option. We hired a skilled attorney and gathered all necessary evidence, including surveys, tax records, and testimonies from neighbors who confirmed our property lines. After months of legal proceedings, the court ruled in our favor, dismissing the senator's false claims. The restraining order was lifted, and we were free to proceed with our plans. The senator and his wife were ordered to pay our legal fees and publicly apologize for their baseless accusations. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.